Hey everyone, it's Nelson, and today I wanted to cover a bit of news circulating around recently regarding Nintendo, down to limited run games and their Switch 2 releases, to Nintendo Today getting an update that is preventing users from recording any promotional videos on the app, and to stores finally getting Switch 2 in stock ahead of its June 5th release date. So if you want to keep up to date with videos just like this, please make sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It helps out a ton, and hit that bell for notifications to stay up to date with everything going forward. So without further ado, let's get into this. Yeah, Nintendo Life recently had an interview with Josh Fairhurst, the CEO of Limited Run Games, regarding a few things on game card releases for the Switch 2. So I just wanted to go over a few questions that they had asked Josh regarding those Switch 2 cartridge releases. One of them being, was the possibility of releasing the Raidu remastered fully on a Switch 2 cartridge ever an option? If so, what made you and Sega go the game keycard route? And for those of you that are unaware, the Raidu remastered game that's releasing is a game keycard game out of the box. And so the collector's edition that is being run through Limited Run Games is also going to contain that same game keycard version of the game. And it's a little bit disheartening, and I know that a lot of people had opinions on sort of just the way that this collector's edition was being handled, because why through a website that touts physical forever are they releasing a game that is technically not fully physical? It's physical in the sense that you can hold the cartridge, but is the game fully on there? No. So Josh went on to answer, when our involvement on a game is limited to a collector's edition only, as it was for games like Dead Space and Alan Wake 2, we buy the standard edition games that go into these collector's editions directly from our partner or their distributor. Unless otherwise noted, these standard editions will always match their retail counterparts. So we don't have any involvement in actually manufacturing those pieces, they just arrive at our warehouse when they're ready. We're really no different from any other retailer in these situations. So that's pretty interesting, considering the fact that, they aren't technically doing a numbered release for this game. They are just buying the retail versions that anyone can find just as a standard edition in any of those storefronts where these games are available. So I'm sure that cuts down on cost for a lot of the content that comes into these collector's editions. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like that makes sense. I feel like if there's a partnership going on with Limited Run Games and another publisher, we're most likely going to see this route taken if, say, that game that's turning into a collector's edition is already announced as a game keycard. So going further down into this interview, so another question that Nintendo Life had asked Josh was whether or not the limited run numbered releases for the Switch 2 would be in game keycard formats or fully on the cartridge, and if there was any potential that seeing Switch 2 cartridges from Limited Run would also be able to play on the Switch 1, much like how Marvelous is handling their upcoming release of Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. And so Josh said, if Limited Run is manufacturing the standard edition of the Switch 2 game, it will always be an actual cartridge, and that they have no plans to support the game keycard format on titles where we are the manufacturer and publisher. So that's going to be the key phrase here. If Limited Run is actually manufacturing and publishing the game, you can indeed rest easy, because that game will be fully on the cartridge. You will not have to worry about whether that game is releasing as a game key card or not. You'll know that it's fully there on the cartridge. And then he went on to say, as far as dual Switch and Switch 2 releases go, yes, you can expect to see this with some of our releases. He doesn't happen to have all the technical details that go into making this a reality, but purely from a business perspective, it makes more sense than fracturing customers between separate Switch and Switch 2 releases. And that's one thing that I've been appreciating from Marvelous being so upfront about all of their upcoming third-party releases. Even the new Daemon X Machina sequel is fully going to be on the cartridge. They're opting to go that 64GB cartridge route, just like CD Projekt Red is going with Cyberpunk 2077, which, if you can support those developers, support that option, because I think it's going to be very important coming up into this next generation of the Switch, and, in a few years, the next Xbox, if there is a home console variant, and the next PlayStation, for us to vote with our wallets. And if we really do appreciate physical releases, we need to demand that. We need to pay for it. We need to show that that's where the money is going. Because, it's just awesome. At least for me, it's awesome when I get a game and you pop open that case, you pull that disc out or that cartridge out, and you slot it into your console, and it's yours, and it's all there. So, yeah. Anyway, I do really appreciate that Marvelous is doing that, and I would love to see more developers, more publishers opt to kind of make a dual cartridge option where, maybe there's one release and it's the Switch 1 release, and it happens to play the Switch 1 version when it's plugged into a Switch 1, or it plays the Switch 2 version when it's plugged into the Switch 2. And hopefully, that doesn't require any download or patches to, say, play that Switch 2 upgrade, but it would be exciting to see, nonetheless, the game fully supporting both versions on one cartridge versus having to split that product into two different platforms. But we'll see, because we do have a few games coming out, and they're releasing maybe just for the PS4. You can think of a lot of Capcom's fighting collections. They just come out as a PS4 edition, and they work perfectly fine on the PS5. So the last few questions I wanted to run over was whether or not they have any plans, limited run games, on releasing on the cart physical releases for any titles that have already been announced as game key cards, and whether or not limited run games will be charging more for games coming on the larger capacity Switch 2 cartridges. So when it comes to whether or not they'll be able to work out some sort of deal on the cart releases for games that have been announced as game keycard releases, Josh went to say that it's something that they're exploring and something that he would like to do, but it's been surprisingly difficult to pitch so far. To illustrate why, there are a few notable games that have had mostly digital retail releases on the original Switch, and I tried to pitch true physical releases for them. Unfortunately, there was a fear that any new release might make it difficult to move the older pre-existing retail stock. So he's run into the same issue here, but it doesn't mean that he won't continue to try, and that he's sure some partners will bite. So I can see why it would be difficult, especially if, say, with this upcoming Switch 2 generation, if a publisher has already announced that their game's going to be releasing as a game keycard, if they want to push that stock, it wouldn't make sense to strike a deal with, places like Limited Run Games, where they're going to be providing a full on the cartridge release for that same game, because I guarantee you many people, if they have the option or they're looking at both versions of that game, that they're going to opt for the fully on the cartridge release over the game key card, just because of that fact of ownership of the copy of the game that you've purchased, and not relying on that license, especially if a storefront's going to go down in the future and you can't re-download your games anymore. It's going to be a cute little paperweight. And then lastly, for games coming on that larger capacity Switch 2 cartridge, is Limited Run Games going to be able to give a ballpark of what that price might cost at retail? And so Josh said that he's not sure if many people are aware of this, but that there were only a handful of publishers that ever bothered with that 32 gigabyte cartridge that was on the original Switch as an option, and that those were really expensive. So he couldn't get into specifics here, but outside of just saying that there's a reason most publishers couldn't afford them. So those releases, Alien Isolation and Doom Eternal, really weren't outside of the realm of our traditional pricing model versus both games' digital price tags, despite the crazy cost of their cartridges. So based on the experience with those releases, he wouldn't expect to see them deviating too much from how we typically price products, even if the cartridges are more expensive. So I think that's good. Hopefully, we stay around that $40 price standard tag that Limited Run is usually releasing games at least the standard versions of those games. And that if anything, if they do go up because of that 64 gigabyte price for the cartridge, maybe we'll see a $10 price hike. But, if it's possible to just pay $50, but you have the game fully on the cartridge, I think that's a great, compromise. And, I wouldn't be pushed away or hesitant on buying a game if that meant I'm going to have it fully on that cartridge. So moving on, Nintendo Today recently received an update that prevents users from recording promotional videos. This article is also on Nintendo Life. On Reddit, in the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit, Cube Play 8 posted that the Nintendo Today app is quietly adding a DRM or similar measure that prevents the capture/recording of content, making it impossible to archive promotional material for the Switch 2 in the future. So I don't really think this is out of the realm of possibilities when it came to how Nintendo would kind of respond to this sort of screen recording of content that they've posted on the app. I know that when the app was officially revealed through that direct, it did receive a lot of traffic, a lot of downloads, a lot of traffic. And so it doesn't make sense for them to allow people to continue to still record that content and post it on other platforms where, they start losing that user engagement. And, yeah, I don't know. It's not really a big deal to me. I know I've just used that app maybe a few times and I'll go into it just occasionally to see what's on there. But I mainly see a lot of that content through Reddit or, X or whatever other platform I'm receiving my news on. And I'm sure a lot of others are receiving it the same way. But I'm sure this is the way Nintendo likes to do things. They want you to go directly through them. They really don't want you ever going and beating around the bush to get information from them. But I'm sure other people have found ways to still grab this content and pull it and, publish it elsewhere. So yeah, nothing really too crazy here. Just something to expect and something I wanted to note because, I find it interesting and I think it is a push for them to try and get more people to just stay using their app and, not getting their news anywhere else. And lastly, stores are starting to receive stock of the Nintendo Switch 2 ahead of that June 5th release date, which is incredibly exciting. I know I'm super excited. I plan on getting mine at midnight from my local GameStop, and I'm planning on doing an unboxing of, along with a few other videos when that thing is in my hands, and I am so excited for that. So on mynintendonews.com, we have this article here, and it says that Target stores have started to receive stock of the Nintendo Switch 2 ahead of its long-awaited June 5th launch. A Target employee snapped an image of a delivery of Nintendo Switch 2 systems which arrived at their store, and this particular store received 40 consoles, 20 of them being the Mario Kart World Bundle and 20 being the standalone Switch 2 system. So no doubt there are other stores receiving their stock as well. And yeah, this is an exciting time. I think it's just making that release a lot more real for a lot of people who are excited for this console, despite a few things that Nintendo's been doing lately regarding, accessory prices and, game prices in general. The accessories are really just the state of the market and, tariff situation. And yeah, I think, this is so cool. I've seen a few other images where, you got employees taking pictures of the game cases that they have in stock, and the console box, sitting next to maybe another like a Switch OLED box and things like that. And so it's really exciting. It's making it more real. I'm hoping that everyone who's wanting to get their hands on one has already done so, and if not, that they're able to still nab one just on launch day or just around launch day. I've got a feeling that we're gonna probably see a lot more opportunities to collect this console than we have had in past generations, especially with things like that chipset shortage not being a thing like it was when the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles released, and it made it really difficult to find one of those around the launch window. But I think this is going to be good, and I'm super excited to test this console out, to compare it with the Switch. So if you're looking forward to seeing a lot of that content, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications to stay up to date with all the videos that I'll be posting on this channel regarding the Switch 2, because I think that is going to be a lot of what comes this way on this channel as we approach and move past that June 5th launch release window. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave it a like. It helps out a ton. And subscribe if you're new. Hit that bell for notifications to stay up to date, again, with all of the videos that are going to be coming onto this channel. And without further ado, be safe. I'll see you guys later. Peace.